All right. Hi,
We're
everyone.
back.
We're back after a couple weeks. You all hearing this or viewing this will not know, but we took a couple week hiatus because
Yeah.
life. Um,
I
Marlene, you
got
were
sick.
sick, and then I virtually you contaminated me, and then I
Yeah,
got
I
sick.
did.
Um, Yeah, you texted me, and then I was like, "Yeah, no problem. It is what it is."
And
And
then
I think it was
boom.
like what Thursday when
Yeah.
I think I texted you, and
Yep.
I felt it at night, and like I wasn't sure what it was, and it was like a weird bug.
Oh
And then
man.
Friday, I was like,
You were
"No,
done for. And it's
yeah."
like
And I also
you
didn't
tried to be a trooper and you tried to rally, but when you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it.
know, and also I didn't have like the sore throat and things that you did, like that would like hinder my voice. But what
Yeah.
did hinder me was just having a bug and like not feeling great. And like I didn't want to
I can
fake it.
imagine.
Like when I
Don't
want to
ever
record, I
fake
want to be in a
it.
good mood and like energetic and fun and a good time. And I was not a good time.
No, we
So.
would never fake it for you guys ever. We just want y'all to know
Yes. I'm like being grumpy, being pissed off, having some actual drama to vent to you all about, sure. But being sick is just not one of them.
But also, your family was in town the week before that, so you had some
Yes.
good quality time with
Oh,
your
that's so right. I
sister.
totally forgot about that. Yeah, me and my sister, I fingers crossed she never hears this podcast. But yeah, we got into it. I left like the house crying. It was a
Oh my
whole
God.
thing. Yeah. It
Gosh,
was like
when
it's
sisters are in town.
the younger sister versus older sister relationship, it just does not clash sometimes. And I think you can probably attest to this way more because you have four sisters, right? Four
Yeah,
sisters?
five and
Five. Yeah.
stepbrother.
So I don't even want to know your world, honestly. Like one sister is enough, but you also are the youngest, or
Well,
right? What
I have a
the second?
youngest sister, but I am technically the baby, they say. Me and my little sister are the babies.
Yeah.
But, I can imagine. Having
Yeah.
one sister kind of seems harder though, because at least when I'm fighting with one or two, I have the other spares to go to and vent
Mm.
to.
That's so true. Yeah. Okay. So my world is much harder than yours. My
Of course it is. California
um.
way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I need another sister to so that she can go
Oh my God.
to.
Well, I'm sorry that you were crying.
Yeah. No. No big deal. If we ever like have another episode when it's like sibling drama, maybe we can do
Yeah.
that. But yeah, no, we're all good now. Me and my sister are all right.
It's a sister thing. You're fighting one day, and the next day you're like, "What are you even fighting? Like, let's just go out.
Yeah,
Let's go do
yeah. Let's
something."
go grab some coffee. Let's
Yeah.
go, do whatever. So all good. Exciting news from our lens. So we'll take another like a couple week hiatus potentially, and you guys probably won't notice because we're recording on the back end. But Marlene is moving.
Yes, you guys. I'm bigger space. AK, I can't wait to start decorating. I'm so excited. That'll be sometime in May, though. So it'll probably be that week or so that I will be deep in moving and living in
Yeah.
boxes. But super excited, and I cannot wait.
Yay! I know I understand the world of living in boxes all too well. I have moved, I think, 4 times in the last year. I think it's
Gosh,
4 times, 4 or 5 times even, I think.
that's
And
crazy.
then who knows, another time up in next year. We'll see. We'll see what
Trying to
life gets
convince
up.
Natalie to move to Dallas, to move to Texas. She doesn't want to.
Yes, yes. I'm open to it. I just need a pool. I desperately need a pool
You do.
or
For the Texas heat, you do.
a backyard or something. So we'll see. I need to spend actual time in Texas. So if anyone's from the Dallas, Austin area, then you'll have to kind of plug me in with like the best neighborhoods and communities to check out. And Marlene, I'll lean on you to do that too.
Ah, okay. All right.
Cool, cool. Alrighty.
I'm excited about our stories today.
Yeah, me too. Okay. Yeah, I'll probably snippet that part out. No worries. All right, I think we're gonna get into story time. So a little update from myself, from Marlene, about our lives and the chaos that just comes with everyday life. And I think I mentioned this before we started recording. Is like nothing insane happened. It's just life. It's just like the everyday little things that happen that are just like inconveniences.
Yes, especially when you are launching a podcast. Let me tell you about that.
Yes.
Things
All the
get
struggles in
crazy.
that, the lighting, the microphones, the headphones that aren't working. So everyone is along for the struggle bus that we are also on. But each episode hopefully is better than the next, and we're excited for those that, are listening from the very start.
Yes. All right,
Cool.
let's get into it.
Yes. All right. First story is about Gen Z and dress code. This, is a hot topic, I think, because workplaces used to be like very, the
High
collar,
heels.
the button up, slacks, and people just have transitioned to casual wear, like athleisure, like all the different things. And more this generation I see is just loving the casual wear and has stemmed away from the traditional corporate attire.
A little too much, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yes. All right. So story time. I was able to get a summer internship at a company that does work in the industry I want to work in after I graduate. Even the division I was hired to work in doesn't deal with clients or customers. There was still a very strict dress code. I felt the dress code was overly strict, but I wasn't going to say anything until I noticed one of the workers always wore flat shoes that were made from a fabric other than leather or running shoes, even though both of these were contrary to the dress code. I spoke with my manager about being allowed some leeway under the dress code and was told that was not possible, despite the other person being allowed to do it. I soon found out that many of the other interns felt the same way, and the ones who asked their managers about it were told the same thing as me. We decided to write a proposal stating why we should be allowed some leeway under the dress code. We accompanied the proposal with a petition signed by all of the interns, except for one who declined to sign it, and give it to our managers to consider. Our proposal requested that we be allowed to wear running shoes and non leather flats, as well as sandals, not flip flops though, and other non dress shoes that would fit under a more business casual dress code. It was mostly about the footwear, but we also incorporated a request that we could not wear suits or blazers in favor of a more casual but professional dress code.
They went overboard.
The next day, all of us who signed the petition were called into a meeting where we thought our proposal would be discussed. Instead, we were informed that due to our unprofessional behavior, we were being let go from our internships. We were told to hand in our ID badges and gather our things and leave the property as soon as possible. We were shocked. The proposal was written professionally, like examples I have learned about in school, and our arguments were thought out and well reasoned. We weren't given any chance to discuss it. The worst part is just before the meeting ended, one of the managers told us that the worker who was allowed to disobey the dress code was a former soldier who lost her leg and was therefore given permission to wear whatever kind of shoes she could walk in. You can't even tell, and if we had known about this, we would have factored it into our argument.
Oh my
I have
God.
I have never had a job before. I've always focused on school, and I was going to gain some experience before I graduate next year. I feel that the dismissal was unfair and would like to ask them to reconsider, but I'm not sure the best way to go about it. Any advice would be greatly appreciated.
I feel like our takes are going to be drastically different, mainly because you are obviously our HR. So I just have to ask the question, like, was that okay that they fired them for them asking to dress as
Okay,
nice?
so 95%, I think there's only one or two states that aren't, but 95% of all the US states, if this is in the US, they're at will employment. So like unless it's under like race or gender or like age, you can basically fire someone for whatever you want. Like if you don't like how they smile, they got a missing tooth. If you don't like, how they smelt that day, like you could fire them. Like is it right and is it ethical? No, but you could. I wouldn't have fired these interns, but I also have lots of thoughts on like audacity.
I just again, we talked about this, like the too casual. And yes, I understand some places are very strict about like business dress codes are very much enforced. I was kind of brought up that way in corporate. The fact that they took time out of their internship to argue, this is an internship. They're not even working there. And they had this petition is so beyond me. I would have been like, this is what you decided to spend your time on.
Yeah, no, for sure. And as an intern with no job experience, with like no real world experience, I'm not saying anything. Like, unless I am in a position where I'm getting like, mistreated or harassed or anything, like, if you want me in a full suit, I'm coming in a full suit. Like, if you need me to come in a gown, like, I'm coming in a gown. So I think there's lots of audacity in this, and I don't know if it's generational or not, if it's just specific to these individuals and someone like kind of rallied everyone together to make this petition, but it just seems like it's reaching. And the dress code is not something I'm going to ever argue about, especially as an intern, because you might only be there for 6 months max. So I don't know. It's just a fight that I don't think is worth it, and it is somewhat not unprofessional to be like, "Hey, so and so doesn't do it, so we shouldn't have to do it," because
A
there's
thousand percent.
there's always situations where there's exceptions, and you don't know what the exceptions are. And in this case, someone lost their foot or their leg, and you're not going to get treated the same way. So
That's another thing is like I feel like they were like it's unfair that she gets to whoever this person was gets to wear these non-leather like whatever running shoes. There is no fairness in the workplace, you guys. Or whatever myth, like just keep your eyes straight, like they say in school. This girl's clearly thinking about school. Eyes on your own paper, ma'am. Like stop looking at her feet. These are the rules. It's the entitlement to me is crazy. Like if someone's getting away with something, it's likely that there is something else going on. And for them to do this whole petition thing is so beyond. And if you're a Gen Z and you're listening, I know you're young, but show up to looking nice. Put
yeah.
those slacks on. Put those leather flats on, girl. You look cute.
Yeah, there's a reason for a dress code usually, and if it's extreme, it's kind of up to you. Like, do you want to work there, and is the dress code going to be the deal breaker from you working there and getting experience and working and getting a paycheck? If it is that big of a deal to you, kudos to you, stand your ground, move on. But I would just say, coming from HR as well, there is always a reason behind things. Typically, some people just they skim under the radar. I've been one of those people of like I can kind of get away with wearing some sneakers because I go in late to work, or I leave earlier than people or something like that. But usually there's a reason, there's an accommodation. You don't know what people are going through, and I think that's the biggest thing is like you don't know everyone's story and what conversations were had behind the scenes, and use this as an example of why you don't compare yourself to others. Is if you have a problem, you're coming from a place of just yourself. And it always depends on the reason for the conversation, but dress code just seems pretty silly to me. Like, be grateful for the opportunity, learn what you can, and move on. It's not a battle worth fighting.
1,000%. And again, it was one of those things to where she spoke with the manager, or they spoke with the manager. Manager gave him a direct no, and likely like this is our policy. And that could have been the way the conversation to then speak up and say like, well, I noticed so and so wears shoes, and they probably would have found out why so and so wore those shoes. Again, army person. But as far as asking advice as to what to do because you still want to work there, I'm not gonna lie, I think it goes a long way to to say how much you want to work there, why you want to work there, take ownership also, and just be like, you know what, I should have listened the first time. I apologize, whatever you have to do, and just continue to put it back as to why you love working with that company. And obviously kind of just to say that you will be in dress code. But that would be my advice. It always goes a long way when you're honest and you own up to things and you really like emphasize that you're excited about the company. I think most companies want people who want to work there.
Yeah, yeah,
But
for sure.
that's
I forgot about that tidbit, but it also seems from the last couple sentences, she doesn't really see where she went wrong. She's just hoping to
fair.
return back and how do I go about it? So if you can't even understand it, which I'm sure if you're let go, the conversation was had that it was inappropriate. So I say just take your loss and it's a learning lesson for you. And you should be glad that you learned it this young. Versus if you had, a higher paying job and you try to change things, it really depends on how you go about it. And a petition at any workplace is truly not the way. Conversations, bringing it up, anonymous boxes, conversations with HR, your supervisor, having your supervisor escalate it to HR, and proposing different policies. That's the route. Having a
Yeah.
petition and like your own little voting system at corporate or at the workplace just it doesn't work. You don't have a vote.
No. And you kind of make yourself be someone that they're going to look at and be like, oh, that person, every time they don't like something, they're going to go
Yeah.
and start a petition and start issues. When the last
Hmm.
thing everyone at work wants to do is fight these internal battles, girl, just wear the leather flats. Like, it's not the end of the world. And
Yes.
so, again, but I think Gen Z in general will have this sort of issue with companies that have these really strict, again, business, what's the term? Not business casual, but
Yeah, just the formal
yeah.
business attire.
So I feel like we kind of need to bring it back a little bit. I mean, I'm kind of over the whole like comfort over like, looking nice. Let's start to look nicer at the workplace.
Yes, for sure. Like I love getting dressed up, and I think it just depends on the industry. Like if you're working in constructions, maybe like jeans and a t-shirt and some
Right.
like nice, clean running shoes or something is the way that people go to work. But if you're in finance or meeting with clients, like put the flats on, put the blazer on, dress appropriately. That's probably the easiest part is just dressing up.
A
Like
thousand
worry
percent.
about worry about doing the job. Like that should be
Um,
the hardest part.
And as someone who I wanted to go to fashion school, so I did a lot of research. There is some like sort of scientific, psychological, if you will, facts about when you dress nice, even when you work from home. Okay, like the people say, like when you put on real clothes, it makes you like I feel like just show up to work even when it's you're in computer in your own home better. Like I just feel better when I look good.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm more on my game. Like, yes, let's crush the day. So there's some psychological facts to that, you guys, all right? So it's not just wearing leather flats, it's putting your best foot forward, literally.
Yeah, no,
Love it.
and I need to do better at that. I feel like you said, when I get dressed up and my hair is done or it's washed or I have like a clean shirt on and it could be the most basic t-shirt, but like if I am put together, I just perform a lot better. So yeah, we'll leave it on that note. Let us know your comments, but I say it's not a battle worth fighting. You're an intern. Interns are, there to absorb and learn, not to change the status quo and challenge it. There's suggestions that people can have. There's always going to be opinions, but I guarantee there's probably so many more things that are worth your effort and time than the dress code.
1,000%. But good luck to ya.
Yeah.
Lesson learned.
Yes.
Okay. Click. So, story 2. My best employee quit on the spot because I wouldn't let her go to her college graduation.
Yikes.
I manage a team, and part of their jobs is to provide customer support over the phone. Due to a new product launch, we are expected to provide service outside of our normal hours for a time. This includes some of my team coming in on a day our office is normally closed based on lowest seniority because no one volunteered, which that sucks. One employee asked to come in 2 hours after the start time due to her college graduation ceremony being that same day. She had been taking night classes part time in order to earn her degree. I was unable to grant her request because she was the employee with the lowest seniority and we needed coverage for that day. I said that if she could find someone to replace her for those 2 hours, she could start later. She asked her coworkers, but no one was willing to come in on their day off. After she asked around, some people who were not scheduled for the overtime did switch shifts with other people, but not her, and volunteered to take on overtime from others who were scheduled. But these people are friends outside of work, and as long as there is coverage, I don't interfere with people who want to give or take overtime of their own accord. There's a little caveat. I did intervene and switch one person's end time because they had concert tickets and they had already paid for, but this was a special circumstance because there was cost involved. I don't know. Is there cost involved to graduation?
I think they're talking about costs involved to the person that had the concert tickets.
No, right. But like, isn't there some sort of...
Oh, yeah. I
cost?
mean, the cost is like way more than the concert, but all right, continue.
I told this team member that she could not start 2 hours late and that she would have to skip the ceremony. An hour later, she handed me her work ID and a list of all the times she had worked late, came in early, worked overtime for each and every one of her coworkers. Then she quit on the spot. I am a bit upset because she was my best employee by far. Her work was excellent. She never missed a day of work in the 6 years she worked here, and she was my go-to person for weekends and holidays. Even though she doesn't work here any longer, I want to reach out and tell her that quitting without notice because she didn't get her way isn't exactly professional. I only want to do this because she was otherwise a great employee, and I don't want her to derail her career by doing the same thing again and thinking it's okay. She was raised in a few dozen foster homes. Oh, wow, she really knows a lot about this person. And has no living family. She was homeless for a bit after she turned 18, and besides us, she doesn't have anyone in her life that has ever had professional employment. This is the only job she's ever had. Since she has never had anyone to teach her professional norms, I want to help her so she doesn't make the same mistake again. What do you think is the best way for me to do this? So she does want to reach out to her.
Wow. Wow.
Girl.
First and foremost,
I don't even...
And because I always think like I can't like curse, and I don't curse a lot, but fuck this manager.
Fuck this manager. Fuck
and
you.
Kudos to the girl for quitting on the spot because that was your only option.
1000%.
Truly. And she even gave the manager or this company like most of her day and saying, oh, hey, I'll just come in 2 hours, later than my scheduled shift. I don't need the whole night off. Like, I just need to like go to my graduation, get it done, receive, the diploma of all my hard work, and I'll clock in.
I feel like this manager needs someone to tell her how unprofessional that was. Not only did she know all this information about her, she was raised in different fosters. She's never had stability in her life. And then the one stable thing, her job, where she's showing up consistently, like she said, she's working in on the weekends, working overtime. You couldn't give her 2 hours? That is wild.
That is so crazy. So that's your best employee. That she's your right-hand person. She shows up. She covers for everyone on the team. But because she was hired a little bit later than everyone,
right?
She is just like the grunt person that takes on all the crappy shifts, that has no leniency, that doesn't get any dibs on anything.
And also, her coworkers are so messed up for that. Like, she said she's always picking up for them or, helping them when they need it. Nobody could have came in 2 hours. 2 hours?
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah. I agree with you. I'm glad that she left. And my advice to this lady is do not ever contact this girl again because... if you're going to convince her to never do that again, that means you are the toxic person in this situation.
Yeah, and clearly someone coming from an unstable background, childhood upbringing that has been in foster, homes, that doesn't really have any family. I don't know if she has friends or any other support system. It sounds like she doesn't, but clearly she knows her worth nonetheless.
1,000%.
So,
shout out to this girl.
Yeah, a shout out to your mental fortitude because if I was raised in those circumstances, I probably be like, okay, I'll show up to work. But clearly, she has a good head on her shoulders. So kudos to her.
And she couldn't, you can't change a ceremony. I'm still caught up on the whole concert leniency thing as to like, oh, she paid money for the She probably paid, who knows what the financial situation is, but showed up, time. There has to be some cost involved in this,
Yeah.
going back to school. And you're telling me you wouldn't let her go to her ceremony? That is so selfish and
Yeah.
so messed up.
So she's a high performer and going to school, probably in the same type of field, only enhancing her skill set, her knowledge, her experience. And I'm assuming, based on how responsible this employee does sound, that she probably requested this. I don't know if it was said in the story, but she requested this, I'm sure, weeks in advance, months in advance.
It doesn't say if she had pre-requested it, but regardless, she was scheduled that day. So let's say the schedule comes out a week before, if they're so close, to your point, I'm assuming that this girl the manager had some sort of knowledge that her graduation ceremony
Yeah,
was coming
so
up.
I don't know how far in advance, but because graduation's a big thing, and if
Yeah.
you're a high performer, you most likely have asked and requested for this day off. If not, you're saying bare minimum 2 hours. But and again, we go into like legal territory. Like, yeah, it's legal. Like, you can have her, force her to work and schedule her, but the morale at this company for you to say like, no, we can't switch shifts. I, as a manager, at any level, would be like, I'll come in for 2 hours. Go to your
Right.
graduation. If no one's gonna cover it, I'll come in.
That's
So
that.
I don't know. It's baffling. And to OP, whoever's writing this, you're the ship manager, and like you need to reevaluate your professionalism. And I wouldn't want to work for you either. So
No. So what's the best way? Leave her alone and don't ever talk to her again.
right, yes, I second that. I think we're both in agreement. Like, leave this girl alone. She is on to better things, and she'll land somewhere that appreciates her.
And to everybody listening out there, like, please do not sacrifice any of your personal achievements or anything in your actual life for work. Now, mind you, I know that depending on what you do and, things like that, where you're at in the company, you may have to miss, some things here and there. But something like this is so important that, to Natalie's point, I think it's great that given her background, she was even able to recognize that this was more important than work. And there are things where, like, in the moment, stand up for yourself and say, you know what, I'll find another job. I know I'm a good worker and you're missing out on me. So see ya.
Yeah, I mean, I always say don't quit until you have a job. But in this case, they really gave you no option to, and life is bigger than just work.
Yeah.
So you'll land somewhere far better and with people that respect you, and will at least give you 2 hours off of work. And in this case, like, as a manager, don't be shocked when someone else quits when you don't also give them the opportunity, because life happens. And you're going to miss a lot of great employees when you're not flexible.
That's a good call out for managers. I'm not a manager. I know you're a manager, and I'm sure you're the best manager ever. But it's like, people, your team, they're people, and if they're likely, especially if they're younger than you, like, you give them some slack. Things happen, and I've always seen my managers as people that, like, at the end of the day, if I need help, like, you are the manager. You're supposed to step in. You're supposed to be there for support, and doesn't sound like that was being given from your side. So,
Yeah. Yep. So if you ever have something important in your life, speaking to this manager, you better figure it out and still continue to work, whether that's birthday parties, a newborn child. I expect you in that office covering your shift. Like, all right, we're going to head into story number 3, workplace drama using private messages to go to HR. I think this is going to be a really fun one, and every single person can relate to this. All right. My supervisor received private messages between my friends and I, none of which are coworkers. I was talking some shit, and my friends were going even more ham because they're supportive, and even though they don't know the people, they have my back. Now my supervisor was one of the people mentioned, and so they're trying to go to HR about it, and those are private messages sent off the clock in a private Discord server.
Oh,
Can they
no.
actually go to HR about it? Just wondering from a legal standpoint if that's even okay to do.
Is it okay?
So, one, they didn't mention how the said manager got access to this Discord, like who sent them the messages, how did they find out? Because, if we're just rambling on Reddit or we're rambling on a close friend story or Snapchat, like it's pretty hard for your manager to find that information.
Yep.
Unless you call them drunkenly one night and ranted or whatever it may be,
Mhm.
right? But so that's my first question is how they get access to it. And I guess it doesn't matter. The point is they do have
They have
access.
it. Yep.
Um, is it legal? Absolutely. I mean, we talk about it all the time. People are having silo conversations. They're near the break room and having lunch and they're talking shit and someone overhears. So it doesn't really matter where. Same thing as when you're acting unprofessional off the clock. It still impacts the company's brand. Like, should they get involved in your personal life? No. But if you're wearing, let's say, Marlene, you're just repping your company, t-shirt and you're out there in Cancun just getting like
Wasted.
obliterated, right? Like, or whatever. And like,
Yeah.
we can make crazy stories all we want. But if you're repping a company like that matters, that affects brand image. And then if you're working with certain people and you're talking shit about them directly, that's probably worth a conversation. Not to say that we haven't done it, because I will just speak for myself. I've talked shit about so many people, my coworkers, my managers,
For
my
sure.
like my peers, people that I don't work with. I talk shit, right? And that's like, hey, bottom line, if
Certified
you
shit talker.
Natalie Carter, shit talker. Um, but again, I guess I'm just trusting that my friends are keeping this private. I don't know if a friend showed one of your coworkers how it got leaked, but then the story is if I knew someone was talking shit about me and depending how bad, I would probably bring it up to my manager. I'd probably bring it up to HR and be like, "Look, they feel this type of way. I either want to squash it with them, address the concerns, or I don't want to work with them anymore." Or if all else fails, depending on the situation and if HR isn't helped to you, which I'm hoping that they are, or your supervisor, look for a new job. Like if you're uncomfortable with people, like at the end of the day, HR can only do so much. And if they're not on your side, if they're not listening to you, if management or leadership, ownership, whoever it is, depending on your size of the company, take it into your own hands, find
Yeah.
another job. So sometimes it's
Really, my only add to this is I'm also a shit talker. I mean, who's not these days?
right.
But the thing about shit talking is the moment that people find out about it, you can't take back those words. So, girls, start looking for another job because not only, as Natalie just pointed out, they definitely can go to HR about it. It's likely going to get messy. And it clearly was you, you know what I mean? Like they have proof, it's real proof. And so if it ends up being like termination and all those things, like I would just start being like, maybe I should start looking for other jobs just in case. Because yes, you can talk shit. This is a free country, but there are repercussions. So
Yes. Yeah. So keep that in mind. I think you said it perfectly. You got to just stand on it. So either you stand on it or you fall on the knife and say like, you're sorry, like you were just stressed out, like whatever you need to do to smooth it over, and let time do its thing and kind of prove that you do want to work with them. But again, if you're hitting on their character, if you're talking shit about them, their kids, whatever that looks like, maybe it's something you can't come back from. But if you're talking about work frustrations, maybe it just opens up the conversation and it forces everyone to have that hard conversation of what they're doing in the workplace to make everyone's life easier or better and do their job well. But if it's not, you got to stand on it, and it's time to move on.
I will say, going back to literally the first sentence, how the hell did the messages end up with the supervisor?
Yeah.
And like either you got a rat in your friend group or somehow someone hacked into whatever messaging system you guys were using, whether it was a text or something. Like that to me is really crazy. And I hope you asked all your friends, like, hey, did anyone by chance upload this conversation anywhere where it could have been found by my supervisor? Or did
Yeah.
anyone
Well, they
send?
mentioned Discord, which can be
Oh,
public
that's
and you can
true.
make it private too. But yeah, it's weird. I don't know if the manager got invited to the group on accident, if they shared it. It's very weird.
I don't
How
know enough about Discord.
Yeah,
So,
it's kind of like, I mean, how I understand it, it's kind of like a WhatsApp. It's like
okay.
a group, like texting service, or you can call and do things on it. But yeah, I don't really know too much about it either. But the point is, clearly someone leaked it. It just doesn't like happen. So spruce up your resume, and I would probably look elsewhere.
Maybe look at your friend group too, or
Yeah,
Discord.
that's
Maybe don't
true.
use Discord anymore to talk shit.
Yeah, just
Send
text
a
them.
text.
Like
Send a text, girl.
like people are going on all these different like platforms. They do like Snapchat groups, they do like close friends, they do WhatsApp also. Like I've had Discord accounts as well, mainly for like groups and like team, functions and things like that. But like
Oh,
if you're with your friends, have a group chat.
a thousand
Just
percent.
text them.
Like, call them, girl. Do a four-way. Do a group chat. Do something. That's another thing. I don't know if it's because we were raised during the time when the internet was new. Hashtag. We're almost 30. But I have it embedded in my brain that like any single time I use anything that's online, aka I open up my laptop or I Google search or whatever, like search someone a search engine, somehow that information is out there for anybody to find if they are smart enough or stumble upon it. So text, you guys. Learn to text. Learn to call people
Yes.
and
Yeah.
complain.
No, it's so crazy. I'm gonna give like a quick story, and I hope my friend doesn't mind me sharing this. But her child just got like a brand new phone, and I don't know about you, but back in the day when you only had like 20 or 50 text messages, like, and sending pictures cost money too. I didn't send pictures, and thank God I didn't. But people and kids nowadays are like uploading like nudes and things like this to like Discord and Snapchat. And I mean, it's common, like we hear about it, right? Like people are
Fair. Okay,
sending
fair.
nudes and having their sex tapes and all the things. And it's like, whatever happened to a good old text? Like,
Girl,
so
like I
I'm not
said,
condoning,
uh,
sending nudes or like anything like that. But whatever happened to just sending it directly to the person, one channel. And yeah, when we're talking about talking shit, it's like just keep it as private as you can, and maybe don't talk shit in a group setting, depending on how close you are with these friends. But like you said, it's probably time to audit your friends and see how well you can trust them.
and if you didn't hear growing up like Natalie and I, let us be the ones to tell you the internet is forever. I know you think you can delete it, you can scrub it. The data is out there. And especially if you don't delete it, someone's going to
Yeah.
find it.
Yeah. So thank God that sending pictures costs money, and I didn't have the money to spend to
Send
send my
nudes.
news.
I was too poor to send nudes.
Yes, exactly. Thank God. Thank God that I was a, low income child and I couldn't send nudes. So, anyways, bless my parents. All right, moving on. That's funny.
Oh man.
Okay, I
Sorry to that
think
girl though.
yeah, you have the next story, so I'm gonna leave it to you.
Okay. Just start from story 4. Story 4. Am I the jerk for going to HR after my coworker kept dumping her work on me? I work in a mid-sized office doing billing. My team is small, just me, another woman, Lena, and our supervisor. When Lena came back from maternity leave, our boss asked everyone to be flexible while she adjusted. I had no problem helping out at first. If she needed to leave a bit early, I would finish an invoice, batch, or answer a few extra calls. It felt fair, and I do like her as a person. Over time, it slowly turned into Lena just sliding anything she did not feel like doing onto my desk. At first, it was, can you send those statements for me? My baby didn't sleep and my brain is fried. Then it became full accounts with notes saying, Daria will handle. Some days, half my workload was hers. I started staying late, making mistakes, and getting stressed. Our supervisor only looks at the total department numbers, so it looked like we were both hitting our targets. When I hinted that I was overwhelmed, Lena said I was better with details anyway and reminded me that being a single mom is hard. Coworkers would joke that I was her work wife who keeps everything together. After 1 week where she called out twice and left me with a mountain of urgent tasks, I snapped a bit. I documented how many accounts I had been assigned that were originally hers and scheduled a meeting with HR. I tried to frame it as a workload issue, not an attack. Yesterday, Lena was called into a meeting and came out red-eyed. Now, half the office is cold toward me, and someone actually said I threw a struggling mom under the bus for a few spreadsheets. I feel guilty, but also weirdly relieved that someone finally noticed the imbalance. Am I the jerk for going to HR instead of just sucking it up or confronting her directly again? Because she had brought it up again.
Keyword is again.
Yes. I would have sided with maybe Lena or maybe even just been like, girl, you could have just said something. But she did said something. And girl, Lena knew what she was doing.
Yes. And I'm all for being flexible and helping out. I mean, we say like, I'm only going to do what's in my job description. I'm only going to do my job. But like the reality is there's always like the and other, like
Yep.
and else, and like picking up people's slack. And if they're sick for a day and you pick up the work, or if they have PTO scheduled and you take on a little bit more workload, or in this case, someone's coming back from leave and they have a baby, like that's going to happen. So I think flexibility is super important, to have good relationships with your peers. But at the end of the day, after a couple of weeks, and I say a couple of weeks is still stretching it, but let's say, 2, 3 weeks of you taking over more job duties than you're originally supposed to, that's when the conversation is like, we got to hire someone else, or they have to do their
1,000%.
job, or the manager has to help out in some way, depending on what your workload looks like. Because sometimes, yeah, people say they're working 40 hours, but they're working 30. They're not really putting in all the hours. So like they can probably afford to take on a little bit more work, but that doesn't mean that if the other person is present, that they just don't get to do the work that are assigned to them. So
Yeah.
I personally, I don't really care if you're a single mother.
Sorry, girl. It's your
Sorry.
choice.
Yeah. Sorry, we all got decisions, and
I'm
if
not
you,
responsible for you at the end of the day. This is work. It's kind of flipped from earlier story of the girl who wouldn't even get 2 hours from her
yes,
coworkers of
yeah,
help. But I feel like there was like some sort of theme today, not even on purpose, and that's like, where are the managers? The managers need to show up and take additional work if your team is not being able to do if one person's not able to do something, that's when a manager should step in and say, I've got it, because now you're doing almost double the work for no reason. And so to me, it is crazy that the managers didn't take more work to begin with.
yeah, yeah. And who knows if they did? It doesn't sound like they did, but yeah, like you said, the themes of today is like, where are the managers? And where's the accountability? Because if I'm coming in from just having a baby, I appreciate people's flexibilities and taking on some workload. And maybe I do have baby brain, and that's a real thing. And I had to come back to work because bills don't pay themselves. I get that.
Yeah, very true.
But at the same time, if you can't do the job, that's a conversation for you and the manager to have, not for you and your peer to have.
Yeah.
So I think that's like the biggest clue. So you're not the jerk for going to HR. You definitely should. I think you should have been going to your supervisor before you go to HR. Like that's
Agreed.
the steps, to see if your manager can have that conversation with you and the peer and see like who needs to pick up what. Do you need more days off? The person that's coming back from leave and, they have baby brain and we get that. Or maybe taking on some of the easier tasks from the other employee that's doing maybe the more detailed portion of the workload, just to make sure everyone has a fair shake, and one's not being, burnt out and overworked. So
Yeah, keep your managers in the loop also. Like whether they show up for you or not, that's on them. But at least give them the opportunity to say, hey, I'm taking now, let's call it 20% of Lena's work. Now I'm working 120% and I'm burnt out and I'm not getting recognition because, like she said, it's kind of coming across that they're both doing all of the work that needs to be done for the department. But in reality, Daria is doing majority of the work. That could have been maybe even a conversation to where she could have gotten a pay raise. The manager could have given her something. And instead, she might have gone a little bit, jumped the gun and gone straight to HR.
Yeah.
Because now people hate her.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, people are aware because they were calling her the work wife. So it's not like that wasn't being seen, that you were doing more work and like holding that relationship together. So I think, yeah, you said it great, made a good point of there should be a bonus somewhere along the line, some recognition. If I'm going to do the work, I'm not going to do it for absolutely free. It's either going to be paid out. I'm either going to get recognized. I'm either going to get kudos. I'm either going to have, a vacation or more PTO later on in the year. Like something has to happen. But I'm not just doing it from the goodness of my heart for an extended period of time. Like 1 week, I got you. You need help on a project. I'll train you again. I'll explain it to you. It sounds like this girl was willing to do that, but not burn herself out for it, or she's already burnt out from taking on double the workload. So, not the jerk in my book.
No.
Like you said, probably jumped the gun a little bit, but when you're frustrated and you're burnt out and you don't think your manager is seeing that, or they should see it, because sometimes like the manager should be able to see this. Like they know where the work's coming from. They know, the work styles and all the things. And I don't know if it's a super large team and it flies under the radar, but it sounds like the employee thinks that the manager probably should have known and just went straight to HR, which, in some cases you need to. Our last story is something everyone can relate to, is money talk. Discovered a pay discrepancy between my colleague and me, seeking advice. I recently stumbled upon a situation at work that has left me feeling quite uneasy, and I'd appreciate any advice or insights you can offer. A bit of context: I work for a company that I truly enjoy alongside a fantastic team. My colleague and I share the same job title, responsibilities, and knowledge, and we both perform the same task. However, I found out that they started working at the company after me and have not yet begun any additional training, whereas I am currently in my first year of my bachelor's studying accountancy, and yet they earn a few hundred more per month than I do. He is planning to start the bachelor in accountancy in September. How do I know all this information? He's an old colleague, and I convinced him to leave hospitality like I did and come to work for accounting.
Okay.
While I understand that several factors may influence salary levels within a company, it is difficult for me to comprehend why there is such a discrepancy between our pay, given that our roles and responsibilities are identical. Since joining the company, I have made significant progress and taken the initiative to expand my knowledge and skills through education, with the exception that it would benefit my personal growth and the company. In light of these circumstances, I am considering addressing the issue with my boss and kindly requesting a review of my current salary. I believe that a salary adjustment would not only fairly recognize my dedication and performance, but also reflect the fact that my colleague and I share equal responsibilities and knowledge. I would appreciate any thoughts or advice on how to approach this situation, or if you have any similar experiences to share. Thank you for the time, taking the time to read my post, and I look forward to hearing your perspectives. Very formal.
Very formal. I have a similar story, but I am actually dying to know from an HR perspective about these type of conversations.
Okay, my son is beaming. I actually am going to challenge you to go first.
Okay. Like I said, I have a similar story. So it's uncomfortable to talk about money no matter what happened, who you're with, whether it's friends or there's family. But at work, it's not a rule, it's not a law, at least from what I've known here in Texas, that you aren't allowed to share your salary. But again, I think money makes everybody uncomfortable. I will say my first advice and thoughts is like, if you're going to approach your manager and ask for more money, I don't think you should talk about this person's making more money. I think you should talk about position yourself in a place where saying, look at what I'm doing. I'm doing all these great things. I would like a raise of X amount. Say the amount that you want, whether it's your exact coworker salary or more. Leave your coworker out of it. It is unfortunate that you found out now that there is a pay discrepancy, but I think in most corporate jobs, they could say it's based on so many different things. Maybe his, all these different things that he has to offer. And I know she's saying that we have the exact same background, but that can't be true to the T. But I've had a situation or someone way junior than me. And tidbit about me, I went to community college. I did not go to university. So there's that element in my story. But I found out she was making like $10,000 more than me. And I mean, this girl was way junior. And I had been at this place for 5 years. At this point, I was already looking for other jobs, and I ended up getting a $20K, but like, raise. So I left. But my overall advice is do not mention your coworker makes more than me. Like, just position yourself to where I want to raise, I deserve this amount, and here's what I've done to deserve that. But again, I'm the everyday employee. I've been on the other side of it. That would be my 2 cents. Natalie, HR, step up to the mic. We've got to hear.
Yes. Do you want to work in HR? Because that was perfect. Yeah, I totally agree. You never want to bring your coworkers into it. There might be a time and place, if it's a huge discrepancy, if it's a large company and there's multiple people coming and they're openly talking about their comp, like sometimes things spill out and there are comparisons to be made, but 99% of the time you do not want to involve your coworkers, because what they shared with you is their own experience. And like you said, your experience and your knowledge is not 100% the same. Somehow, some way, even if it was a day of training in another company and you just got this like little bit of knowledge somehow and it just helps out the company in some type of project, or you displayed it differently in the interview process, that's going to, shine through of what offer you were given at time of hire, even if you were hired after the fact. I think it is a large issue with a lot of companies where 10 years ago they hired someone and this employee has grown with them for 10 years, but someone new, was just hired last year and they were given like 10K more than the current employee. And it is a big problem. I think you need to value the employees that you have with you. If they're doing the job, you need to make sure that you have some boundaries of the salary range and what the different levels look like. And that's why it's so important to have a compensation analyst at your company or some type of HR person that's monitoring that, so that there is like the high and then the low end of that salary range for employees. And there's usually, a reason of why people are on the high end, why people are on the low end. And keeping everyone in that same job title and the same job responsibilities in that range somehow. But we're working with people and working with salaries, and you're hiring people at different times. So not everyone's going to have that exact same salary because you're doing the exact same job. Most of the time you're doing things that are different.
And he could have negotiated better,
That's one thing I was going to point out is if you don't ask, you do not receive. And it sounds like it's just a couple hundreds of dollars each month. And if you're working, a 20-hour job, or you're an hourly employee, maybe that does make a difference to you and it is a larger discrepancy. But if you're a salary employee, it's a couple $100. So they might have just said, hey, can we, be at, instead of $50,000, it's $51,000 for the year. Can we negotiate that? And that was just a small win on their boat in their book, because if you don't ask, you definitely don't get. And that might be a couple $100 a month. Probably not even that, but still. So yeah, if they negotiated better, then kudos to them, and that's on you. I would say next performance review, negotiate it, and come with your receipts. Come with the value that you add to the company. There's always an opportunity to ask for more. So if now's the time and you want to, have that conversation now with HR or supervisor, sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to hear that too from HR, because like, I think we both know, because we've been in the corporate world for so long, it's kind of an unspoken rule, again, not enforced by any means, but like, don't talk about it, and sometimes it gets tricky because especially with, not to get too political, but especially with like women and men, we know like, women are vouching to get paid for the same job that they're doing as men. So it's all the power to us, ladies. But in today's world, I think we're the most equal that we've ever been. And so
Yeah.
it's hard to say, hey, I'm making, 50K. Like, what are you making? Like, then it becomes this sort of, then you're mad because you're
Yeah.
making,
Then you're
more
mad.
than
I'm all for pay transparency and having those conversations, but you just need to know who you're having the conversation with. You're not just going to ask your peer like, "Hey, how much are you making?" because you don't know if you're getting paid more than them. And then, they're upset and they're, having some frustrations towards you because maybe you get some easier clients sometimes and they're getting paid less. So you just don't know what that could potentially open, not just financially with your position, but morale wise, who you're affecting, who might also be struggling, and they're getting the short end of the stick and it's not actually you. But if it comes up naturally, sure, go for it, have those conversations. But if not, do your research. And even when you do research, because I've had plenty of employees that come up to me and they're like, "Oh, well, the market says I should be getting paid
yes,
85,000."
people love to save the
Will love
market.
it. And it's like, okay, well, I have a business of 100 employees and I can't afford to pay you 85,000, and you don't have the experience for 85,000. And if you really need 85,000 and you're at, let's say, 50,000, I can't afford to give you a 35K
Yeah.
bump.
And again,
Um,
you can leave. I left. I was like, you know what? That's not going to happen. You said something that's right. And most companies, and I think this is known, right? The longer you stay somewhere, technically you're getting a pay cut after a
mhm.
while because you can get a drastic pay raise, if you will, when you jump ship.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality. It sucks. And I hope, my company doesn't have an analyst for that. But I think some smaller companies, like you said, they're a business, and that's something that I know people don't understand. It's like they're likely not holding out just because there's so much overhead, there's so many costs to a business, and so you can always jump ship and get a lot more money if you're, able to find something. But
Yeah, sometimes businesses are cheap and they don't want to pay you, but you also have to think if they pay you $5,000 more, they most likely have to pay another five other people $5,000 more. So it's not just that, it goes into benefits, it goes into just your pay, the time they take to train you and everything else. So I would just keep in mind, like you said, if you're not happy with your compensation, you've tried to negotiate, you've tried to add more value, and you're not being heard or seen, then it's time to jump ship. And I'm a huge proponent of job hopping. My boyfriend always says, "Is like, can you stick around for once?" And I tell him I am not loyal only to you. So
wait, what's your like normal, like how often are
yeah,
you leaving?
I historically have moved, honestly, about 2 years is like an
Okay.
average for me. And I'm kind of sticking put right now because different life stages and I want a little bit more stability and know what I, have in front of me, which is really important for me at this point in time. But yeah, I think after 3 years, you do start to kind of lose the ability to make more money unless you truly are getting promoted. And it just kind of depends on the culture. If you do see opportunities for growth, if it's a high growing company, then maybe you can get promoted, get those raises. But unless you're truly getting promoted, those annual raises are not much. They're
Yeah,
usually around 2 to 5%, and it's not really pushing the bank too
not
much.
at
So
all.
yeah, you really have to love where you work and it works for you. There's so many different benefits than just money. So I do want to keep that in mind and preface that there's flexibility. There's the people that you work with. If you're a two-person household, maybe you have more ability to, love where you work instead of just loving the paycheck, which is kind of my position right now. But if I was single and I'm just worried about making ends meet and making more money and getting ahead, maybe I do jump ship. So everyone's in a different position, but would love to hear people's thoughts on, if you've had a conversation like this in
Yeah.
regards to money, because it's a huge topic, and I think we do need to talk about it and ask for more, definitely. But also know that companies cannot always give you more as much as we want to believe that they can, depending on the company, of course. But you work for a small company as
Yeah.
well. And if you ask for 5K, 10K more, and so does everyone else, that might be the owner's savings, or the payroll
1,000%.
for the month.
It also, not to, we're kind of going overboard here, but it's also like by department, I'm a department of one, aka their budget for me is probably way drastic than the budget for the project managers that are a team of 8 that they have to really then look at salaries in terms of like, this is our entire budget. Everyone's 8 salaries have to fit. So, it's just one of those things where it's complicated. But something that you keep bringing up a lot is negotiate. Learn how to negotiate. The worst they can tell you is we cannot pay you that. And
Yeah.
then the choice is yours.
Yep, for sure. And we'll end it at that. The choice is yours. And all of these stories, the choice is yours. The power is in your hands. All right, I think we are done for today. So hopefully you guys enjoyed these stories. More to come in the following weeks. Other than that, have an amazing day and thanks for listening.
Bye, guys.